I'm Marty. I am the Southern Region Intellectual Property and Licensing Associate at WiSys, and today I'm going to introduce you to the next session, which is our student research talks. So we have 4 outstanding students who are going to talk to you about their research. We will have a short amount of time for questions, and so we'll have some people who have mics that are running around. So, you know, if you have a question, maybe during it, maybe kind of make eye contact with one of them. That way we can keep it moving. We only have a little bit of time, but hopefully be able to get some questions. The first talk that we have today is going to be from Valley. She's from UW La Crosse, and she's going to talk about an AI-driven automatic spotlight.
Thank you, Ali, for that introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm Volumai Evanachlam. I'm a computer engineering major and a math minor from the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. Today, I'm about to present my work titled An AI-Driven Automatic Spotlight, which is in the process for a potential patent. So, let's talk a little. Picture the scenario. You booked the tickets for your favorite concert. And you're out there, your favorite star steps in, and the spotlight shines left. Chaos. Well, not really, but it was close, right? Spotlight is not an easy task. Manual spotlighting is often very expensive, and finding trained spotlight operators is almost impossible. We need a spotlight operator for every single spotlight, and over the past years, it's been a training curve and a learning curve to find these spotlight operators. Another important thing is we're all humans, and since it's completely human operated, it's prone to human errors, which are unavoidable, trust me. A singular miscue can ruin the whole experience of a show. And these spotlight operators, they often work in situations that involve high stress. There is often communications from the back of stage to the spotlight operator in the front. One singular miscommunication could result in the spotlight shining left, as I mentioned ahead. Smaller venues like a cafe or a school theater could not afford a full tech crew, but hey, they still need lighting, so what is the solution for it? Our approach uses an AI-driven facial recognition system, very similar to the ones you use in your iPhone, but it's way cooler on stage. So what it does is when you step on stage, it automatically tracks your position and keeps track of the coordinates on the grid of the stage. The real magic happens behind the screens. This brain-like system is integrated with the lighting console that gives the light cues on where it's supposed to shine the spotlight. So, think of it as you walk on stage, and this thing keeps track of you as a loyal puppy. It follows you everywhere, and it has laser focus. Since it's completely automated, you do not need any manual intervention. You can set it, step back, and relax. It'll do the task for you flawlessly. The best part about it is it works well with existing tech. There is no need to buy any extra hardware or any upgrades to your system. It just seamlessly integrates with all the lighting systems out there in the theatrical field. So, what are the potential applications of this spotlight? Anywhere you find a stage, you can pretty much use the system. Theater productions and school plays, they're tiny events, but name the student and the spotlight keeps track of them. Concerts and live events are situations that involve a lot of movement from the performers, and it's very hard for a manual spotlight operator to keep track of them. Our AI-driven spotlight can do it effortlessly. Even it can do it for multiple performers. Theme parks and immersive shows, it keeps track of everything, and the guests cannot even tell you it's fully automated. It is as seamless as it can ever be. Corporate events and presentations, it keeps the setting very formal and professional when you have keynote speakers or events like this. So what are the advantages of our product? First of all, it's completely automated, so it avoids all the messy spotlight operations that could result from human errors. It's easily integratable to any of the existing systems because of our use of open sound control protocol, which is what most spotlights and lighting consoles in the modern theaters use. It saves us a lot of money, first of all, because we need a singular spotlight operator for every single spotlight we use, and let's say we have multiple performers on stage who have to be spotlit. It saves a lot of money because one singular thing can keep track of as many performers as you want to keep track of. Since it's AI-driven, it's very reliable, and it is very less likely to commit an error. Moving on to the next slide, impact. As a spotlight operator, I think I would love to showcase my artistic finesse somewhere else in the show rather than sit for hours and manually control a spotlight. First of all, there are errors that come with inconsistent spotlighting, and this makes sure that we could get rid of those errors. There is no need for any tech tension or hard wiring at the start of the show. It is very scalable from school theaters to Broadway-like shows. It can keep track of anything and everything. Moving on to our next slide, the inventors, Polima Ernachian. A huge thanks to Dr. Dipankar Mitra from the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse and Douglas Wilkin from the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse as well. A special thanks to the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse for letting us use their resources, and a huge shout out to WiSys for supporting our process. A special thanks to Ali and Mike for helping us with the patent process. Finally, thank you for putting up with me for the last 5 minutes, 55 seconds. And yeah, so in conclusion, our model is fully scalable and can fit any stage and any style of performance. We are looking for grant funding, and we would be more than happy to collaborate with tech partners. Thank you.
All right, any questions from the audience?
My voice can carry very well. So I was wearing a lavalier, and most performers have a lavalier. It would be nice to have a button that they could press, and they're then the ones that get the spotlight.
Yeah, so, oh, was that a suggestion?
Yes.
Thank you.
What was the
Oh,
inspiration?
there's someone back there, sorry.
So I was just curious, how do you handle like a low light situation? Say the curtain is going across, the stage is dark, you can't see the faces yet, but the spotlight needs to shine. How do you handle that?
So that's a good question. What we came up with was we have two different lighting situations. One which is completely set in dark, so it senses audio cues like movement. So when the performer moves, we keep track of the coordinates. In well-lit situations, we just use face recognition.
Awesome, thank you.
What was the inspiration for this project?
Well, I've been working in this for a long time, and I really hate being a spotlight operator back at the university. So I thought, hey, I'm a CPE major. I could use my skills to do something beneficial. You know, I could enjoy working. It was just that.
All right, one more question, and then if there's any other after that, you can talk to her at lunch. One more back there, I think.
Hi, so my main question is, in a situation of like theater, how do you decide which performer to shine a spotlight versus like say the chorus, where there's a lot of faces but you probably don't want the main spotlight to be on them? Thank you.
So what we do is at the beginning of the show, we get a picture of the performer, and it keeps recognizing that particular person on stage and shines the light on them. It's like a facial recognition there rather than identification.
All right, thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, next up we have Faith Brumkop from UW-Platteville. She's going to be talking about utilizing metal organic frameworks, pioneering the next bandage.
Hi, my name is Faith Rothkopf. I'm currently a senior at UW-Platteville with a biology and chemistry major, and I'm going to be talking to you about utilizing metal organic frameworks, or MOFs. Okay, so first we wanted to address a problem. We decided to focus on antibiotic-resistant bacterial infections. In this country, annually, there are over 600,000 hospital-acquired infections, which is where you go to the hospital for something, you come back and you're like, oh great, I'm now sicker. This is resulting in over 70,000 deaths a year. That's a lot of people. So we started with a little bit of background and then some literature. So first things first, what is a MOF? A metal organic framework, or a MOF, is in the upper right-hand corner. It's going to be a metal ion. We use copper 2+, and then an organic linker, which is then composed into a scaffolding or framework type structure. From there, we had to read so much. I specifically picked this paper to show because I read it so much I could have recited it to you at one point. And it was a really great skeletal framework for a lot of our experimentation as we could grow and adjust it as we got forward. The questions listed on the side are mainly things that I just had to start addressing as I was doing literature review, but aren't like, super important for this talk. Okay.
I think
gosh.
There you go.
Okay, so the experimental phase was pretty much broken into 4 steps. The first step was our cotton modification. The cotton monomer does not have a functional group that you can bind the MOF to, so we had to add that, which is basically all that is. The next step is going to be our layer by layer dip coating process in our little beakers to create that MOF. The third picture is our little strips of cotton fabric with our MOF on them. As you can see, they're blue. It's really exciting. We made what we thought we made. Always the golden chem research. From there, we can take them on over to the biolab, do wet experimentation, which is going to be your liquid cultures, and dry experimentation, which is your plates. So I did over 900 hours of research on this project, so please understand this is not a comprehensive review. This is merely a summary of one experiment that I think was really important in explaining what happened. So here we took control cotton, which is just the cotton of like a t-shirt, and the modified cotton, which was after that first step, and then our MOF modified cotton, which was those blue cotton strips. We put those on plates and put them with saturated E. coli, let them sit for 3 days, checking them every day. Then I measured the zone of inhibition and compared the area of the zone of inhibition to the area of the sample itself. That ratio is the graph that you see. So the MOF cotton had a zone of inhibition and had a really consistent zone of inhibition for those 3 days. Really exciting, it worked, it had some antibacterial properties. The other thing I want to mention to you is the little graphic on the bottom right-hand corner. The MOF cotton was bright blue the very first day, and after it had a lot of antibacterial effect over those first 24 hours, it turned into this lighter blue or purple. It's a little adjusted, it's not quite the right color on the screen, but you can get the gist, as it started leaching those copper ions in a really regulated and controlled fashion. After 2 days, it was white, which is really important, and hold on a second. Oh my gosh. For the application. So the big thing is in a healthcare setting, you can go, hey, you know to change the patient's bandage when it turns white, because it's no longer having any antibacterial effect. As stated here, most applications would be in a healthcare setting. Think your really surface level wounds, going to be your hospital-acquired infections, your surgical site infections, MRSA, diabetic foot ulcers, things like that that are going to be really not going to respond well to ampicillin, kanamycin, chloramphenicol, etc., etc. So competitive advantage. If you compare it to cotton, so your linens, your t-shirts, your towels, what do those do for you? They don't have as much of a scientific and medical advantage as this does, as well as the MOF, which is where you just mix the reagents together, creating a very fine blue powder. That's very hard to use since it is pretty fine. Current barriers we're going to be facing in the future. One, regulatory barriers. If you want to get this into market someday, you're going to have to go through the FDA, which is a really good thing. We want to make sure people are safe, but it is something we have to think about as this gets further into the research process. Scale and capacity. I've only done these experiments with little 4.5 by 2 centimeter cotton strips in 25 milliliter scintillation vials, meaning to make one batch, it takes 7.5 hours, not including the cotton modification, and sometimes I like having a lunch break. Animal studies. Obviously, we cannot immediately jump to people, so animal studies, and then expanding the range of pathogens tested. We've just been using E. coli, so we want to expand past that. Impact. So to summarize the economy and the societal impact of this, I want to focus on the figure on the right. Since there are over 290,000 surgical site infections every year, resulting in 13,000 deaths, with an average of $25,000 per infection, a little back of the napkin math, which I did with a calculator, is over $7.4 billion the healthcare system spends on these infections every year. If we assume that this piece of cotton could solve 1% of them, we'd be saving the healthcare industry $70 million and sending 130 patients back to their families. The other thing I want to talk about is opportunities for the students. I have mentioned that I had over 900 hours of research on this project, which has led to poster presentations, and I'm currently giving a talk to you all. The team, this is me and our PIs in both the biology and the chemistry department. Also, Erica is currently working on the Parallel project. I encourage you to go check out her poster. Lastly, we want to thank all of the funding we got from UW-Platteville and WiSys. It was really helpful. And we are currently seeking collaborators, grant funding, industry partners, and student researchers. There's our contact information. I understand if you don't want to email a student, but I will not be graduating until 2027, so I will be around to email me if you don't want to email one of my PIs. Thank you so much.
All right, any questions from the audience? Okay, I'll just, here, I'll give you my mic.
Thank you. So Nancy, you just said you had mainly like copper reagents which you tested, which you cultured the cotton mainly, right? So what are like some other metals, or is that a future area of research, use other metals potentially to test for even bigger efficacies?
So we specifically chose copper because it already has a proven antibacterial effect through the denaturation and free, I don't know how to explain this like simply, free radical formation due to the reactive oxidative species it creates. Basically, it just like lyses cells really easily, which is why we focused on copper. Also, the copper moth is a really well-studied one. We do work with other metals in the lab. We haven't started them into this project yet, if that makes sense, or if that answers your question.
Thank you.
So there's silver impregnated bandages already on the marketplace.
Yes.
Copper is a lot cheaper than silver, obviously, but you might not be actually using that much copper or silver in these bandages. So how would you compete against the already existing metal ion bandage?
That's a great question. I do know that there is already silver bandages. I know that one of the reasons we focused on the copper ones was for the monetary aspect. I think it's just possibly a different alternative. I am not 100% sure. I don't think our research has gotten quite that far yet. If you would love to talk to my PI, Dr. Mohammed Rabbani, he's right there, and I really encourage you to talk to him at lunch about that.
All right, I think there's one question in the back there.
Yeah, so as someone who just had surgery a month ago, I was wondering like how this application or how this would be applied to a patient, such as like, would you be like pressing it on for a few hours or minutes, or would you be like applying that for a while until it changed the color?
Yeah, so I think if we were to dream way off in the future when I'm not using plates anymore, I think there's a couple things we need to think about. It does tend to it leaches the copper a lot faster when it's exposed to a moist environment. So I do think it would be, if you say you had your surgery was right here, it'd be wrapped and then wrapped in gauze and just kind of like allowed to sit there as an alternative to applying like antibiotics if it was like a bare wound or something that's usually prone to getting infected. And then repeatedly and very frequently checked to make sure that it's doing okay, changed, and just probably not applied very frequently, as you do want the wound to heal in the normal sterile process, if that makes sense, if that addressed your question properly.
Yes, that did. Thank you.
All right, one more question.
When talking about these metal ion frameworks, do you think that there's any risk for antibiotic resistance?
I do not, because copper has been used for thousands of years. And if you do stop by my poster, it is something I mentioned. It's been used since like ancient Egyptian, ancient Roman times for this process. And because it happens through that free radical formation and the reactive oxidative species formation, your cells and the bacterial cells can't really do anything against it. Anything is possible, and I would not put bacteria past anything. I'm sure eventually it could do something. I've watched it do plenty of things I didn't expect it to do. But at the moment, it's really unlikely to become resistant to this.
All right, thank you so much, Faith. All right, next up we have Corey Hill from UW-Whitewater. He's going to be giving a talk titled Connecting Tradition to Technology.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Corey Hill Jr. I'm a student at UW-Whitewater, going for my MBA with an emphasis in marketing. And I'm here to talk to you about our app. Wisconsin's small farms are the backbone of our local food systems. They grow what we eat, they support our rural economies, and they preserve agricultural tradition. But despite their value, these farms are often left behind in the race toward innovation. And our project set out to explore how we can bridge that gap, how technology tailored to real needs can help small farms thrive sustainably and competitively. Over the last year and a half, we interviewed 7 small-sized agricultural businesses and learned about the unique challenges that each of them face. Many still rely on disconnected tools like notebooks, spreadsheets, and emails for their tasks, and poor internet connectivity limits their ability to adapt more modern systems. Excuse me. Farmers are juggling daily animal care, inventory, finances, and customer outreach with limited support. And while larger farming companies benefit from high-tech solutions, small farms often can't afford the cost or the infrastructure required to implement these changes. This digital divide is holding back innovation in a sector that needs it. To better understand this issue, my team and I conducted interviews with farmers across the state of Wisconsin. I met them at farmers markets and reached out through local farming networks and selected participants who ran small to mid-sized farms using sustainable or regenerative practices. Our criteria focused on farmers who were interested in innovation but faced constraints, whether they were financial, technological, or both. And through these conversations, we collected data on their daily routines, their seasonal planning, business decisions, and how they currently engage with technology. Here's what we found. These farmers are not resistant to change. In fact, they're already using regenerative practices like rotational grazing, composting, and integrated pest management. But they lack the tools to scale these efforts efficiently. Nearly every farmer we spoke to expressed interest in using tech tools like livestock monitors, digital record keeping, or inventory management systems, but cost and poor connectivity were deal breakers. There's a clear need for a solution that's both practical and affordable. We want to create a mobile app designed specifically for small farms, not large-scale industrial operations. What will set it apart is its offline-first design. Farmers can use this out in the field, the barn, or the greenhouse without needing a constant internet connection. When they return to a signal, the app could sync everything up automatically. And I want you to imagine for a moment a farmer entering livestock notes after morning chores, or updating their crop rotation plans while walking in the field. No more scrambling for notebooks or losing track of paper records. I mean, it's 2025. We don't balance our checkbooks by paper anymore, right? It's intuitive, visual, and fits into the way small farms already operate. What sets this solution apart is its focus on accessibility and adaptability. Unlike existing farms designed for industrial scale operations, this platform will meet small farmers where they are, low cost, offline capable, and flexible enough to support everything. It can also embrace the ethos of regenerative agriculture by offering sustainability insights alongside business planning tools. This app isn't just about making farms run better, it's about helping them tell their story and connect with their customers and stay viable in an ever-shifting economy. If implemented, this technology could dramatically improve how small farms operate. Farmers would spend less time on paperwork and more time in the field. They could track and improve soil health, reduce waste, and make informed decisions using real data. Market access would grow through improved customer engagement, and operational stress could be reduced. This tool would help level the playing field, giving small farms the tools they need to compete, adapt, and lead in the face of climate, labor, and economic challenges. By supporting innovation at the grassroots level, we not only protect Wisconsin's agricultural heritage, but we invest in its future. The most important takeaway is that more than anything, this research is a step in us joining these farmers' mission to help keep Wisconsin fed. I'd like to thank Dr. Mimi Zakaria for her support and her mentorship throughout this entire endeavor. I also couldn't have gotten anything done without my companion and coworker, John Chapman, who was an MBA graduate at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. I'd also like to thank WiSys and as well as the sponsors. And I'd like to thank you for dealing with me for the past 6 minutes and my stumbling self. And again, help us keep Wisconsin fed. We're seeking further grant funding, and here's our contact information. Please reach out to me. Please talk to me. I will talk your head off about this project because I'm in love with it. Thank you very much.
All right, I think we have a question right here, Mason.
Great speech, by the way. I love the idea of that. It's super duper cool. My question for you is like, what's kind of the next steps that you see this taking as it starts to move towards market? And if it were to go to market, like, what's kind of the anticipated model in terms of like, you know, how this will be paid for or something like that?
It's a great question. So, you know, we don't have like a definitive list of features yet. We have ideas. We got lots of ideas about what we want to do with it. And how it'll be paid for is essentially, it'd be probably a subscription-based model is what we're looking for. Whether it be monthly or yearly is up for debate, decision. That's what a lot of competing applications use, but they're larger scale, or they're kind of too vague as to just kind of apply to any small business. If that makes any sense, if that answers your question.
All right, Mark.
This is a little bit of a follow-on to Mason's question. Sorry, over here.
Oh, sorry.
I'm thinking about a company, Midwestern Bioags, located in Blue Mound, and helps farmers with soil solutions and formulations. My question is, have you thought about the potential partners that might help kind of penetrate and propagate your app amongst Wisconsin farmers?
Absolutely. I would not see that as a problem. We actually have kind of spoken about that with other, with the farmers who have used other tools and other organizations about like, you know, would you be interested in like partnering with them or adopting something that they're doing? And I don't see that as a roadblock. If anything, I encourage it. So, absolutely.
I think there's a question right here.
So many of us who work in major...
Sorry, where are you? I can't see.
Yeah, can you raise your hand? So
there you are.
So many of us who work in major in agriculture currently, we know how stubborn farmers can be. So what would be your pitch to kind of the older generation who's a little more stubborn and hesitant when it comes to the use of technology while they're out in the field?
That is an excellent question, and it's something that we have talked to farmers at length about. And the answer I would give is twofold. One, they are a close-knit community, these farmers. they don't tend to go on to Reddit to see what everyone's talking about when it comes to, what's going on. We're the young people, we know how that works. But they say, well, what's Tom up the street think? What does Dave down the road think? And it's more or less just kind of meeting them where they are and saying like, hey, we're going to show you this. And then if you like it, tell your friends, tell the other people you work with. And also it's about just kind of making it easy to understand and accessible, just not making it too complicated, because that's the big takeaway that we got from our interviews was just, well, I'm worried the app will be too confusing. I'm worried about this technology being too confusing. So it's about simplification and meeting them where they are.
I have a question. You talked about market access on there. Can you talk a little bit more about how the app would be able to get people out into the community, how it connects to the community?
Yeah, like I said, we don't have a definitive list of features that we want to be married to immediately. But one of the things we talked about was essentially having like a social media connector or presence on the app, and because a lot of the farms use things like Facebook and things like that to connect with their clientele. But some of them still just use talking to them or handing out flyers at farmers markets. So we kind of want to see like, well, how do we take that and put it in? So that's something that we're still talking about.
Great, thank you. All right, thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, we're going to switch out the clicker now that we've been through. Make it a little easier on everyone. I think it's a little easier. I think that works a little bit. Yeah. Okay, hopefully that's a little bit easier for everyone going forward, but thank you for your patience, obviously. All right, and last up today we have Alexis Pedraz. I'm sorry, I thought I had it, but anyway, Alexis, Alexis is from UW-Stevens Point, and she's going to be talking about CNF packaging barrier using a foam mat.
Hi, everybody. Not to correct you or anything, but my name is Alexis Padres. I am going into my 5th year at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. I am double majoring in chemical engineering and paper science and engineering with a chem minor. So this summer, I've been working on creating a packaging barrier using CNF, which is cellulose nanofibrils, using a foaming approach to apply it on the paper. So why should we consider using a different packaging approach? The number one reason is sustainability. A lot of our modern food packaging is plastic-based. And as we all know, plastic isn't great for the environment and it's something we're looking to move away from. CNF can be derived from a lot of typical manufacturing processes already, including the paper making process. It's pretty much a byproduct that you can get through. Sorry, I lost my spot. When using a paper-based packaging, we increase the sustainability of the goods we consume, which makes the environment happy and makes everything a lot easier for us in the future. The second reason relates directly to why we're using CNF. It's the oxygen permeability. So for a high barrier material, you want an oxygen permeability of less than or equal to 75. The units basically mean the volume of oxygen that flows through an area over a set amount of time at a set pressure. As you can see on the upper right, the CNF value is much, much lower than that 75, which lets us know that it's supposed to be a really, really good packaging barrier, odor and moisture resistant. The bottom number is HDPE, which is a lot of your playground equipment material, And that, I would consider that to, in my mind, be really, really good because it's thicker. But as you can see, that number is extremely high, especially when compared to that 75 goal. So how do we make the hand sheets and how are we going about everything? So our hand sheets are made using a bleached maple craft pulp, so hardwood pulp, at 90 GSM, which is grams per square meter. Following TAPI standard 205, it's just your typical hand sheet process. It is put through a PFI mill at 3,000 revs and with a Canadian standard freeness of 326 milliliters. Pretty much just repeatability. And then for the actual foam, which you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, that's in a disintegrator, so that's how we're mixing our foam. We don't really have a better option right now, it's just what we have. So yeah, we're mixing a surfactant, the CNF, and the water together to make the foam before we apply it onto our pre-made hand sheets and letting that dry for about 24 to 48 hours. So after it dries for that 24 to 48 hours, we are measuring the basis weight, which is in the grams per square meter again, of the actual CNF itself. So that's what the CNF5 for both of those means, is the CNF is at 5 grams per square meter, which is really, really thin on the hand sheet. So this is all the barrier testing for just oxygen coming through. So our control sample, you can see, has 36,000. That's really, really high. Ideally, you would like it to be as close to 0 as possible to be a good barrier. With our sandwiched approach, which is the hand sheet followed by a layer of CNF, followed by another hand sheet, which is kind of our end goal, we're at roughly 7,500 right now, and we're still looking to get that down. A couple reasons why we're thinking it's as high as it is now is unable to get even coating and adequate dispersion with the foam, which we're working through and would like a better dewatering method. But also it is so thin it tends to have pinholes and cracks. So that's another potential issue and thing we're currently working on. And then for the moisture barrier, our control sheet is from literature paper. As I'm sure everyone knows, it's very absorbent. So it's very hard to get a good, accurate reading with equipment, so we pulled the number from literature. The best values there are from our cast film, which is if you just take that foam and put it in a tray and let it set and let all the water evaporate from it, it creates a nice thin foam. I have a picture on the next slide. However, out of the paper-based ones, the CNF with a 10 GSM is the best that we have available. So here's the foam. I'm sorry for anyone in the back, it might be really hard to see, but there is some in the circle, and you can see it mostly when it alters the letters. And there's also one on the right-hand side of the circle, but just to get an idea of what that looks like. So our main learnings from this is that foam dispersion has proved to be an effective coating method. It's just at really high contents of CNF, and we're looking to get that as low as possible because in theory we should be able to get it very, very low. And then we also need a more effective dewatering technique. We did try, as I mentioned, to use a vacuum before, but it had a negative influence on the actual coating itself. So things we're looking to work on in the future. And that about wraps it up. I want to thank Dr. Ram Gong. I want to thank Andreas. He's been working with me on this project. And yeah, thank you all for listening to me talk about CNF and applying that using the foam barrier. My email's on the bottom there in case you guys have any further questions or any potential insight you'd like to share. So thank you.
All right, any questions?
Hello. So you mentioned this as a viable replacement for plastic packaging for foodstuffs, is essentially what we're going for here?
Yes.
I actually work at a grocery store, so I can attest to the fact that we go through a lot of plastic. Do you know if this would be necessarily a more cost-effective thing for businesses for actual packaging to ship out food?
So right now, we haven't gotten quite to the phase where we're looking at like cost of rolling things out. However, we have thought ahead about how we would actually produce this in like an industrial setting. On the paper machines, there are certain head boxes that allow you to layer material. So that's kind of what we're, eventually working towards, but all of this is just super like small lab stuff so far, so we haven't gotten into like the cost or anything like that so far.
All right, great, Rob.
Yeah, isn't cellulose nitrate flammable and explosive? It's a component in explosives for sure.
Yeah, do you know if we're using cellulose nitrate? I just know it's the like actual fibrils themselves that we've been using, and it's in like it's like a 1% consistency like gel. So it's like 99% water, and then it's that 1% gel. We haven't had any issues with anything exploding, but it's a very good thing to keep in mind and look into and make sure everything's safe and accessible.
Yeah, it looks like a follow-up question. So it looks like you're replacing plastic-based material, but how effective this will be against water? Because plastic is not water soluble, but if it is cellulose-based, so water can dissolve easily.
Right, so these would be more for like dry foods, like if you think like a candy bar or like a bag of chips. We don't have an alternative for like wet-based things yet, but this would be, a step in the right direction and kind of replacing the plastic. It would just be really directly towards like dry foods, if that makes sense.
You had mentioned using maple. Have you considered using more readily available woods like pine as well?
So, I'm not sure if that's something we've looked into. I know in the time that I've worked on it, it's all been maple based. However, when so maple is a hardwood and pine is a softwood. So they have really different paper properties. Maple still gives you the softness and flexibility, whereas pine or other softwoods is super firm and a lot rougher to the touch. So it would just have a lot of different paper properties, but that's definitely something we can consider for future testing.
All right, thank you so much, Alexis.